the church tried to censor something that was on YouTube. This sparked the interest of a number of us because we're very anti-censorship. And at that point, we started to dig deeper and deeper and found out all the other problems with Scientology. And at that point, you don't mess with YouTube, which is what they did, without getting our attention. And so once they had our attention, we found out all their other crimes. And at that point, a number of people just decided to get involved.
Let me take a quick call from somebody in Boston who has a question for you guys. Adam?
Yeah.
You have a question for Gareth?
It's an honor to talk to you. I've been listening to you for a long time, and I'm glad you're tackling the subject.
Well, I'm not tackling it, guys. And by the way, I would be happy to hear from the other side. We just can't get anybody to talk about it. And I would dedicate 2 hours to that, too, if people want to come and talk about it. Because I bet there are people that feel like it's been a very positive experience, very good for them. But there seems to be an ugly underbelly somewhere. So, Adam, what's up?
Well, I'm sure there have been people who've been helped by this, but that's not, we're not attacking the religion. We're not attacking the people. We're attacking the corporate greed behind what they claim as a religion.
Okay.
And I just wanted to talk to, Tory and Gareth would be perfect. I wanted to talk about their policy of fair game, which they attack critics, try to set them up with fabricated crimes. Like in the 70s, there was this author named Paulette Cooper who wrote an expose about Scientology, and she was framed with a bomb threat. And they took her to court, drove her crazy. I think it was a 5-year trial. And Gareth was also exposed. He was protesting anonymously. They found his name. And another guy in L.A. was just charged with criminal conspiracy or something like that.
All right, well, let's hear what they have to say about this. Gareth?
Honestly, I couldn't hear a word he said.
Oh, all right. He was talking about a writer that was exposed for sort of set up with a bomb threat, and then you two being exposed or set up in some way or framed. Something like that happened to you?
Well, I can tell you that there have been a lot of claims by Scientology that we've been making bomb threats and everything else, which we haven't done any of. In fact, there was one in Clearwater where they had the police detonate some backpack that was left by one of their churches. So if you know anything about their churches, you know that they have cameras all over. They've never found anybody. The church has a very long history of trying to set people up for.
And Radar, the online magazine, and also as a hardcover version of this now, a paper version, you did a long story with them as well, did you not?
Yeah, I assisted with that article.
And Tory, you mentioned before the break that you lost a lot of things as a result of leaving the church, or as a result of being in the church?
No, from leaving. One of the biggest abuses they have is a thing called disconnection, which we're actually having this weekend, this Saturday, Operation Reconnect, where we're trying to get families to reconnect. But they literally declare you suppressive, like I'm declared a suppressive person. No one's allowed to talk to me. If they talk to me, they're declared suppressive, and they'll lose all their friends and their family.
In the church?
Mm-hmm.
And so your friends
I lost my husband of 27 years.
Is he back still in the church?
Yeah, he was born in the church. His parents were in 1950.
Uh-huh.
And one thing I wanted to tell you, Dr. Drew, if they won't call you, I'd be happy to do a show telling you what I would have said that was so great and how I feel about it now, because some of the things I still think are good.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, I love their communication course. A lot of the critics don't, but I do. They think it's hypnosis. I dug it. I thought it was a good course.
What was it?
It's these little drills on communication. A lot of people can't face another person. They don't know how to acknowledge. I mean, you run a radio station. You probably say things to people, and they just sit there. Whereas in Scientology, they teach you to say, I got it. Thank you.
Interesting. And was that all directly from L. Ron Hubbard's mind, or is that stuff that's evolved since?
Nah, he was pretty good at ripping off people. Almost everything that was a big shock to me. But I've been with people who've shown me stuff that was written exactly what he took. Do you see what I mean? He just copied it, put his name on it, and said it's his.
So it's reprocessing of material, right. It's sort of packaging of material. It's still kind of brilliant.
It's still pretty smart.
Yeah,
let's and you don't know it when you're in. But that's the main thing, disconnection, and then their abuses, like this gentleman was talking about fair game. I mean, I don't care about the Xenu thing. It is the only reason I care about it is because they lie about it now and say, oh, it's just science fiction. But, it isn't. It's exactly that South Park show is what Tom Cruise, John Travolta, what myself paid for. That's it.
We have another question from Dave. What's up, Dave?
Well, I've actually been learning a lot about this over the past few months. Up until then, I was under the impression that Scientology was just kind of another out-there religion. However, I've been seeing online a lot of alarming stories from ex-Scientologists, And one of the things mentioned numerous times is these detailed files that the church keeps on some of its members that includes like past sexual history and things like that. Topics normally reserved for like a confessional type situation.
Right.
And my question is, if this is a legitimate religion, what purpose is there in keeping detailed records of members' confessions on file? And is this information used to control past or present members?
Could you hear that, guys?
I can't.
No, I don't.
Okay, let me reiterate. What he said was that he'd been educating himself about this, and he understands now that there are these very detailed records kept about people, particularly about, very personal histories, sexual histories, that kind of thing. Yeah. And the question is, why do they hold that? Why do they retain that information? Is it used coercively, or is it? And if indeed it's a confessional information for purposes of use within a religion, isn't there sort of an ethical protection to that?
I think Tory will probably be better to answer that because of it's more of an auditing thing. They do collect a lot of information on people. For example, if Tom Cruise or Katie Holmes were to ever try to leave, their entire careers could probably be ruined based on the things that they could let out from those records.
And there's nobody, those aren't medical records. They aren't kept by an ethical cohort like priests. They're just there.
Okay, let me just answer that because I was in when they changed this. Originally, it was the science of the mind, right? It wasn't a religion. Then Hubbard said, if you want to make money, start a religion. So he started Scientology. That's how Dianetics evolved into Scientology.
Wait, hold a second, Tory. Science of Mind was originally Scientology?
It was Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health. That was the first book he wrote in 1950. And then in 53, he said, if you want to make money, start a religion. So he started Scientology soon after that, which is a religion, supposedly, right?
Right.
But in the 70s, they realized they were getting sued, and they realized, wow, we got to get the money out of the organization, or this guy's going to take it. Larry Waller's on it. So they switched all the corporations around. We all got it. We literally became ministers in 1 week. We all had a group ordination. Now you're ministers. Every folder stamped priest penitent privileges, and that was a legal thing so that the courts couldn't go in and prove they were doing OT3. They were trying to hide that from the courts.
What's OT3?
Suing them. That's the Xenu thing.
Okay, yeah.
And this was before Xenu came out, so they were trying to hide the Xenu story, so it was priest penitence, thus nobody could look into it but a priest, which, they're so far from that, it's a joke.
But that caller was asking about the detailed sexual histories and personal...
They keep detailed things of all the auditing. They say it's because they have someone called a CS, which is a case supervisor, who reviews every session to make sure you do it standardly. Hubbard created a thing called keeping Scientology working, which was a thing where you had to do everything per his codes and his rules, right?
Yeah.
So they're checking to make sure you're doing it standardly. So it sounded logical, right?
Yeah.
But it does end up, when you're out, they are using stuff against you, posting stuff, saying stuff, that kind of thing.
And there's nothing to restrict them or restrain them. They have no internal ethical standards, and there's certainly no legal...
They do, but they don't. See, the tricky thing is this. Scientology is a dichotomy, inside and out. They sell freedom, they enslave people. They sell communication. Not one of them will talk to me or many people. They're trying to stop the media. Hubbard wrote policies on take over the media. It's called target defense. Yeah. I was part of that. I was the executive director of the Scientology Parishioners League. It was our job to stop black PR.
Tory, have you written a book or anything documenting all this?
I am writing one, yeah.
Okay. Hang on, guys. Can you stay with me?
Yeah.
Tory, Gareth, thank you. I appreciate it. Very interesting. 888-373-9502 is our phone number. That is Tory Christman. She's a 30-year member of the Church of Scientology who's now blown. She's outside of it. Gareth Kales is correct me, Gareth, and when we get back if I'm wrong, but I think you are a First Amendment champion, and anybody that goes after the First Amendment, anybody that messes with YouTube, as he says, gets the wrath of Anonymous, and I guess Scientology got their attention that way, and so they're off and running with that. And we have your questions. We have more on this topic. Very interesting. And again, I encourage anybody that wants to give an alternative point of view. I am happy to have you on. It's not as though I am restricting access to today's show, because I do believe it has to be the case that many people have a very positive experience with this, or the thing could not thrive. And as Tory said, when she was inside, it did have some positive. She dug it, as she said. However, there have been some very, very deep costs to all that for her. Phone number is 888-373-9502. We'll be right back after this. Oh, human beings are so very interesting. I'll tell you where my paranoia kicks in. I'm sitting here staring at something from the American Medical